Okay, so everyone's always talking about spirituality versus religion. Like, is it all just the same stuff with different names? Or, I
Yes.
mean, I'm kind of curious about it too. Today we've got this article, Spirituality versus Religion, the surprising truth about how they're different yet deeply connected. Hopefully they'll give us some answers.
You know what's cool about this article? It's not like those clickbaity ones,
Yeah.
the ones that are like spirituality is better than religion or whatever. It actually like digs into what each one really is and how
Yeah.
they connect.
And get this. They quote WaXhira in here,
Mm-hmm.
you know, from the Sacred Atlantean Brotherhood, saying, religion gives structure, but spirituality gives freedom. Both, however, lead to the same truth if approached with an open heart. But okay, how can you not want to learn more after reading that?
Right.
So, okay, let's start with religion. Like, what is it about religion that makes people want all that structure?
Well, think of it this way. Religion is like a set of blueprints, for like building a house or something. It gives you the plans, the instructions, everything's laid out. So you've got your structured teachings, rituals, moral guidelines, and that can be super comforting for people, especially if they're, I don't know, feeling a little lost. So you can imagine someone needing some kind of guidance in their life, and they find it in a church service every week. They're surrounded by people who share their beliefs. It's like a built-in support
Right.
system.
Yeah, totally.
And, it's not just the community aspect. It's also like having this clear moral compass, right and wrong.
I can see how that would be appealing. Like in times when you just, I don't know what to do. But does all that structure ever feel kind of restricting?
Yeah, I can see that. And the article actually talks about that too. Like
Yeah.
the rigidity of some religions, it can definitely feel limiting for some people, especially the ones who want to figure things out for themselves. Have you ever felt that like tension?
Wanting the guidance,
Yeah.
but also wanting the freedom to, like, explore your own beliefs.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Which makes me think about spirituality.
Mhm.
It's like the opposite end of the spectrum, right?
Yeah,
It's like
care.
the rebellious teenager, the spiritual world or something.
Uh-huh.
But what does that actually look like? Like in real life?
Well, with spirituality, it's less about following external rules. It's more about what's going on inside you. It's about connecting to something bigger than yourself. But
Yeah.
you get to decide what that something is. Like imagine you're meditating and suddenly everything just clicks. You have that aha moment.
Right.
Or you're out in nature and you feel a sense of awe, like a deep connection to everything around you. Those are the kinds of things that spirituality can offer.
Those aha moments.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about.
Right.
And it's interesting because the article talks about how things like meditation and mindfulness,
Mhm.
they're connected to spirituality. And mindfulness is all about being present,
Mhm.
not judging your thoughts, it seems like.
Mm.
That's pretty different from the dogma and rituals of religion.
Yeah, totally. Mindfulness and meditation, they're all about cultivating this inner peace and understanding. And yeah, they can definitely complement religious practice, but they also give people a way to explore spirituality without needing any kind of formal structure.
So it sounds like religion and spirituality are pretty different then.
Mm.
But the article also says they're connected.
Yeah, there.
How does that work?
Okay, so
All right.
even though they approach things differently, they're both ultimately trying to answer the same questions, those big existential ones. Like, who are we? Why are we here? What's our purpose?
Okay.
So at their core, religion and spirituality, they both want to connect us to something larger than ourselves.
So they're both about finding meaning and connection.
Exactly. And remember that quote from the Sacred Atlantean Brotherhood about how the heart of both is connection. That connection could be to a higher power, like in a specific religion. Or it could be something more personal, like feeling connected to the universe or nature, or even your own inner wisdom, like with spirituality.
That's interesting. So if they're both about connection, even with different approaches, how does spirituality, which seems so individualistic, how does that connect back to religion?
Oh, that's the really cool part. So even though spirituality is all about creating your own path, it often uses the wisdom and principles that are found in religious traditions. It's kind of like this. Imagine you're a chef. You love experimenting with new flavors and techniques, but you still rely on the basic principles of cooking. The ones that have been passed down for generations.
So even though spirituality encourages freedom, it still acknowledges the value of religious teachings and traditions.
Right. And the article really emphasizes that interconnectedness. It's not about seeing them as like competitors or something. It's about appreciating what each one brings to the table.
Yeah, I get that. And speaking of things that bring value, can we talk about the Sacred Atlantean Brotherhood for a second? I'm really curious about them, especially this WaXhira. They seem to have a pretty unique perspective on all of this.
Yeah, they definitely do. So the Sacred Atlantean Brotherhood, they're this group that seems to really believe in honoring all paths. Like, they believe that everyone's spiritual journey is unique and valid. It doesn't matter if you're into organized religion or free-flowing spirituality, or even a mix of both. They're more about helping people find their own personal truth than they are about dogma and rules.
Like that. No one right way. It's very freeing. But I have to ask, what does that blend of structure and freedom actually look like in someone's life? Like, I get the idea, but I'm having trouble picturing it.
Yeah, it definitely looks different for everyone. It's not like a one-size-fits-all kind of thing. For some people, it might look like actively practicing their religion, but also incorporating things like meditation or mindful breathing into their day, so they're taking the structure they find comforting and weaving in some personal exploration.
So it's like taking a pre-designed house plan, but adding your own personal touches to make it feel like home.
Exactly. And for others, that it might be more about picking and choosing elements from different spiritual traditions, whatever resonates with them. So like maybe they find inspiration in Buddhist teachings, they practice yoga, and they go to a Unitarian Universalist fellowship. They're creating their own personalized spiritual tapestry, something that feeds their soul.
Okay, that makes sense. Taking ownership of your own spiritual path, getting inspiration from wherever feels right.
Hmm.
But let's be real for a second. We've been talking about the good stuff, but are there any downsides to this personalized approach? Like, could it backfire?
That's a great question. And honestly, yeah, there are some potential downsides, like the freedom of spirituality. It can be really empowering, but it can also lead to isolation if you're not careful.
Oh, how's that?
Well, a lot of religions have these built-in communities, and if you're doing your own thing, you might not have that. So some people might feel lost or not sure where to turn for support.
So even though you're forging your own path, you still need connection.
Exactly. We're social creatures,
Right? So,
And I think the article kind of hints at this by focusing on those practices that are associated with spirituality, meditation, mindfulness, gratitude, those kinds of things. And those practices, they help you connect with yourself more deeply, which can actually make your connections with others even stronger.
yeah, it's like they say, you can't pour from an empty cup
Like so.
if you're not taking care of yourself. It's hard to really connect with other people.
That's a great point. And it brings us back to something the article really emphasizes, which is that both religion and spirituality are about connection, whether it's to a higher power, a community, nature, or even yourself. That's what
Yeah.
ties them together.
They're two sides of the same coin, each one reflecting a different way.
Yeah.
But we connect to something bigger than ourselves.
Exactly.
But how do we actually do that? Cultivate that sense of connection. Is
Like-
there like a roadmap? Or are we just supposed to wander around hoping to bump into it?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's one that we'll have to dive into next time.
All right, everyone, stay tuned for part 2 of our deep dive, where we'll tackle that very question and figure out how to actually find that connection that we're all craving. See you next time. All right, so we're back. And the million-dollar question is still on the table. How do we actually cultivate that sense of connection? You know, the one we were talking about, between us and something bigger.
It's funny because we can talk about spirituality and religion all day long, but it can feel kind of abstract,
Like, how do you actually put it into practice?
Exactly. But the cool thing is this article actually gives us some clues.
Oh, perfect. So spill the beans. What are some actionable things we can do to actually nurture that connection, whether we're more into religion or spirituality or that mix of both?
Remember how the article talked about those practices that are often linked to spirituality, like meditation, mindfulness, gratitude?
Yeah. It seems like those are all about slowing down, like tuning in to what's happening right now.
Exactly. And the best part is anyone can do them. It doesn't matter what you believe.
You're saying,
Even if you're super religious, taking a few minutes to do some mindful breathing or writing in a gratitude journal, it can make your spiritual experience even deeper.
it's like you have your favorite recipe, but then you add a secret ingredient,
Yeah,
something unexpected that just takes it to a whole new level.
I like that. It's not about replacing one thing with another. It's about recognizing that both religion and spirituality, they have tools that can help us connect. And sometimes the best way is to combine those tools in a way that feels right for you.
So it's not about picking a side. It's about building your own spiritual toolkit, using things from both traditions and your own personal exploration.
Exactly.
That makes a lot of sense. And the article also talked about being open-minded and curious. How does that fit into all of this?
That's where the real growth happens. You have to approach religion and spirituality with curiosity, not judgment.
So basically,
Don't just accept everything you've been taught. Question things, explore different perspectives, and figure out what really resonates with you.
oh yeah, that could lead to some pretty amazing discoveries.
Absolutely. And it goes back to what WaXhira said. It's not about choosing one over the other. It's about finding the path that leads you closer to the truth.
And that truth, it could be found in religion or spirituality.
Right.
Or somewhere in between.
Right.
This is all so fascinating.
It is.
So as we're wrapping up this part of our deep dive, what's the one thing you want our listener to remember?
I think the most important thing is to embrace the mystery. Whether you find comfort in a traditional faith, or you create your own spiritual practice, or you do something totally different, the journey itself is what matters. Keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep your heart open to all the possibilities.
Beautiful. I love that. And for everyone listening, as you continue your own deep dive, remember to approach it all with curiosity and wonder. You never know what you might find.
All right, so we're back, and we still need to figure out how to actually make that connection happen, the one between us and something bigger,
Right.
because it's easy to get lost in all the ideas and concepts. But how do we actually apply all this stuff to our lives? Yeah, that's the key, isn't it? And the article actually gives us some hints.
Oh, good. Tell me more.
Well, remember those practices we were talking about? The ones that are often linked with spirituality? Like meditation, mindfulness, gratitude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They all seem to have that in common. Like slowing down.
Yeah.
Paying attention to the present moment.
Exactly. And the great thing about them is that anyone can do them, no matter what your religious beliefs are.
So even if you're part of a religious community.
You can still benefit from those practices, like
Yeah.
taking a few minutes to do some mindful breathing
Yeah.
or keeping a gratitude journal. It can add a whole new layer to your spiritual
Because it's
experience.
just taking something you're already familiar with
Right.
and adding a little something extra.
Right.
Something that makes it even better.
Exactly. It's not about replacing one thing with another. It's about recognizing that both religion and spirituality, they have valuable tools. And sometimes the best approach is to combine them in a way that feels authentic to you.
So it's about creating your own personalized spiritual toolkit.
They-
That's pretty cool. And speaking of personalization, the article talked a lot about being open-minded and curious. How does that play into all of this?
That's where the real growth comes in. You have to approach both religion and spirituality with curiosity, not judgment.
So we shouldn't just blindly accept everything we've been taught.
Right.
We should be questioning things, exploring different perspectives, and figuring out what really speaks to us.
Exactly. It's about finding your own truth.
Which reminds me of that quote from WaXhira.
It's not about choosing one over the other. It's about finding the path that leads you closer to the truth.
I love that. And it seems like there are so many different paths.
There are.
Whether it's through religion or spirituality or something in between, it's been a really fascinating deep dive.
It has.
So as we wrap things up, what's the one thing you want our listeners to take away from all of this?
I think the most important thing is to not be afraid of the mystery. Whether you find comfort in a traditional faith, or you create your own spiritual practice, or you do something completely different, the journey is what matters. Keep exploring, keep asking questions, and most importantly, keep your heart open.
Beautiful. I love that. So to everyone listening, keep diving deep into the world of spirituality and religion. Approach it all with curiosity and wonder. You never know what you might discover. Thanks for joining us.